Most people think discipline is the answer to doing things that they avoid. It's not. You might be able to force your way through a task or two, but it isn't a sustainable strategy. Eventually, you'll fail. Then you'll not only still have that task hanging over your head, you'll also feel weak, powerless, and maybe even pathetic. I'm Mark Maloon, and I show you how to use AI to improve your life. And one way to do this is to identify things you don't like in your life and find ways AI can help. Here's one of mine, and perhaps it's one of yours. Examining and cataloging my monthly expenses. I can download the expenses in the form of CSV files from websites for my credit cards, bank, and so forth. I copy expenses from each into a single spreadsheet, but there's manual work involved in reformatting and assigning categories. It's just so much tedium that I avoid doing it. But I'm embarrassed that I, as an adult, don't track my expenses. I'm sure I'm wasting money, but I don't know where. I realize that I'm hiding from myself. And when I tell the truth to myself, I feel sloppy. And these are not great ways to relate to oneself. If I could have AI handle this, I'd actually get more respect for myself in the area of finances. Now, here are some example statements. Here's one for my credit card statements. You can see this one has no header. Now, you can figure out which column is which by looking at it, but computer programs might not. Some of the items aren't obvious. Take a look at the ones in yellow. Now, in this Venmo statement, there isn't a date. There's a date time, complete with hours, minutes, and seconds. So now I've got to get this column in the same format as the other statements. And now notice the session in green, 414 for $230. Venmo gets the money from my checking account, and here's that statement. So a copy and paste from each file into a single spreadsheet will create duplicates I've got to get rid of, like this. It's both in the checking account and then in the Venmo statement. But Venmo recorded it as 414, and look, here it is at 415. So any automatic deduplication will have to deal with stuff like this. Now I also want to assign a category to each. Here's my set, and it's a good set for the clarity I want to achieve. You would have different categories that are best for you. Now, none of this is difficult, but a lot of it is tedious manual stuff that I don't like doing. Now, for repeated tasks that maybe can be automated, projects and Claudes are a great way to go. Now here when I say projects, it refers to a type of task, not a specific instance of that task. So a project might be, I don't know, collect and categorize monthly expenses, and not a separate project for each month. Each time you want to process expenses, you'd provide the CSV files for that month to the same project. What you don't have to do each time is tell it what to do, as we'll see. Okay, setting up a project is simple. On the sidebar, click Projects, New Project. Answer some quick questions, and then click Create Project. So I'll say Test 1, Test 2, Create Project. Now, there's a place to put your prompt. We'll skip that for now. You can see spaces to write instructions and include files. Now here, I'll just use mine as an example since I've already done this. Project name, expense tracker, short description, provide a single list of all monthly expenses. I did that from the screen we saw a moment ago. Here are some past chats I've had with this project. Now ignore memory, it will fill that part in. Let's look at the instructions I entered when I created the project. I explained the problem and what the output should look like. I say I provided an expense item map.xlsx file and told it how it should use that, and I'll walk through that file in a moment. The third paragraph is what to do in cases where it's not obvious. And the fourth is to avoid duplicate expenses appearing in both checking and in an online payment vendor like Venmo, the Venmo one we saw. Let's take a look at that expense item map file that I provided. Any expense that matches the text in the item column gets the corresponding category and description. Now, not every expense is in here, of course, but these occur a lot, so I've told it what to do in those cases. You can see that I've broken food into 3 categories: Grubhub and Dash, as in DoorDash, are delivery because I ought to consider reducing or eliminating these. There's also Eat Out, and that better be less than Groceries. Eat Out contains stuff like eating at the cafeteria at work, and if I'm spending too much on eating out, perhaps I should start bringing my lunch to work. Now, you'll have different categories based on your expenses and how you want to analyze them, and you'd put that in your expense item map. Now, to process a new set of expenses, I drag the files into that box, the chat box, and tell it I want these processed. And you can see right there I've uploaded 5 files and just said, process these expenses for the month of April. That's all I have to say, since the details on how to do that are in the instructions in the project itself. That's the beauty of projects. Then just hit go. Now, it came up with a single set of expenses containing items from the files with the correct category and description. Now, many expenses were not in the expense item map, so it figured those out on its own, and it saves me from doing that. Interestingly, it color-coded the rows by category. I didn't ask for that, but I guess it thought that might be a helpful touch. Since I've done this manually in the past, I already have an Excel template that I created. I just copy and paste this new list of expenses into it. And there we go. Now notice how the totals on the right are updated. My template also combines expenses for 3 months to give a summary. Now if I was doing this from scratch, I would have had Claude do this part too. And voila, here's what I needed to know, how much I'm spending on each category. Now I can make informed decisions on how to adjust my spending. I now have a tool that does that awful chore for me, but the real benefit is more than this. Now before I explain, if this video has been helpful, please give it a like. I've also put the project instructions I've used in the first comment. Grab it and adjust to your needs. Now if you want to come back to this video, like if you're watching this on your TV, and I do that a lot, you should save it. If you're not familiar with the process, just click save and it will ask you which playlist. Now, I recommend having one called AI or Practical AI, and you can see that I have one right here. Remember how we started this video? Willpower isn't a lasting strategy for tackling unpleasant tasks, but this Claude project is the way to get it done. But it's way more than that. Now, I've been going along feeling sloppy, embarrassed, fearful, and generally not like a responsible adult. Now, I'm confident, I'm clear and responsible. Bottom line, AI has the ability to change how you think about yourself, and that pays dividends throughout your life. I'm Mark Maloon. Thanks for watching. I'll be back soon with another way AI can improve your life. See you then.